Hey, if you're like me and you just got a new set of wines for a dinner party and suddenly realize your kitchen fridge is either too cold for the reds or not cool enough for the whites, you know that awkward moment of trying to keep the bottles at the right temperature without buying a whole new refrigerator. It's that little panic of, do I really need a dedicated wine cooler, or can I just stick this thing in the corner and call it a day? I've been there, and before you spend a chunk of cash on a wine fridge, I wanted to walk you through the Allavino 172 bottle dual zone model so you can decide if it's a good fit for your space, your budget, and your wine drinking habits. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the biggest decision point with any wine fridge is whether you actually need two temperature zones. If you only drink whites and reds stay in the pantry, a single zone cooler might be enough. But most of us like to have a handful of reds, a few sparkling wines, and maybe a dessert wine on hand. The Allavino does the heavy lifting by giving you two separate zones, each with its own digital control. That means you can set one side to 55F for reds and the other to 45F for whites, and the unit will keep them both steady without you having to shuffle bottles around. Now, let's talk about the real-world layout. The external dimensions are 71.5 inches tall, 23.5 inches wide, and 26 inches deep. In my own apartment that translates to a snug fit next to the pantry door, but it still takes up quite a bit of vertical space. If you're thinking of a built-in installation, the left hinge black metal door swings outward, which can be a blessing or a curse depending on cabinet clearance. In a freestanding setup, the door works fine as a standalone piece, but you'll need a sturdy floor that can support the 172 bottle capacity. This isn't a lightweight little box. What sets this model apart is the flex count shelving system. The shelves are adjustable, so you can slide them up or down to accommodate taller bottles like champagne or large format reds. I've actually used this flexibility to store a mix of standard 750 milliliters bottles and a couple of Magnum bottles without any hassle. The only catch is that the shelves are made of metal wire, which means you can't stack them for extra storage. You have to keep each bottle on its own level. If you were hoping to cram a dozen extra bottles into a hidden corner, that's not going to happen. Energy consumption is a common concern for anyone eyeing a new appliance. Allavino advertises Truvino cooling technology, which promises precise temperature control with lower power draw. In practice, the unit stayed cool in a warm kitchen without the compressor kicking in constantly. Over a month of use, I logged the electricity usage on my smart meter and it added roughly $5 to my bill. Pretty reasonable for a device that's keeping 172 bottles at optimal temp. If you live in a region where electricity costs skyrocket, you may still want to double-check the wattage on the spec sheet, but for most households the energy footprint is modest. Who should buy this? If you're a serious wine enthusiast who entertains guests regularly, the dual-zone feature alone is a winner. Imagine a dinner party where you serve a chilled Sauvignon Blanc, then later bring out a robust Cabernet. With a single-zone fridge, you'd have to move the reds into a cooler or wait for the temperature to rise, which can lead to inconsistent tasting experiences. The Allavino lets you keep each wine at its ideal serving temperature right out of the fridge, making you look like a pro. On the other hand, if you only have a handful of bottles and you're mostly happy with a small countertop cooler, you might be overpaying here. The 172 bottle capacity is generous, but you can't force yourself to fill all that space just because you bought it. In a scenario where you have, say, 20 bottles total, a 30-bottle model would be more economical and take up less space. Similarly, if you're renting and can't commit to a built-in installation, the freestanding version works, but you'll still need to consider the door swing and the overall footprint. Let's get into a couple of practical strengths. One thing I appreciated right away was the digital control panel. It's a simple touch interface, no confusing menus, just two knobs to set the temperatures and an LED readout. The temperatures hold steady even when I open the door multiple times during a party. That stability is the result of the dual-zone refrigeration system, which isolates the two compartments so the cold from the white side doesn't bleed into the red side. This matters because you'll notice a few degrees shift if the compartments share the same cooling circuit, which can ruin a delicate Rose or a young Pinot Noir. Another practical upside is the quiet operation. The compressor hums at a